Thank you guys for coming out to Game Theory. My name is Kayla Joelle, and today I'm telling you guys how to make the cinnamon rolls from Sally'sBakingAddiction.com. The really nice thing about Sally'sBakingAddiction.com is that she always uses really cheap ingredients that you can buy in bulk. So if you ever mess up on a batch, you just throw it out and start over. The first thing you're going to need to do today to make cinnamon rolls is to gather all your ingredients and find out later all the ingredients. To do the first step, you're going to make a dry mix. The dry mix for today's recipe consists of 2 1/4 cup of flour, 3 tablespoons of sugar, a teaspoon of salt, and a packet of yeast. You're going to mix these ingredients together with a fork or a whisk. It doesn't really matter either one. Just to make sure that the yeast is evenly distributed throughout the flour. It's very important that you do this step because otherwise when you add the wet mix later, it will be very lumpy and generally does not turn out well. The second thing you need to do is to make the wet mix. The wet mix consists of a half cup of water and 2 1/2 tablespoons of butter. You're going to melt this in the microwave in a small container. Generally takes about 1 minute and 15 seconds. And longer than that, and it tends to melt. At about 1 minute and 15 seconds, the butter will not be entirely melted, but you can take a spoon and just kind of mix it around until it is entirely melted. Milk should be hot enough. After you've melted the butter, you're going to pour the wet mix into the dry mix. But before you start stirring, add an egg. And then you can start either kneading it with your hand, or you can use a hand mixer with a dough hook. It's important that you use a dough hook and not the whisk attachments for your hand mixer, because it will simply clump up in the whisk and not mix thoroughly. You can tell that your dough is done mixing, either by hand or with the hand mixer, when it has reached a soft dough consistency and pulls away nicely from the bowl. You should also be able to pick it up easily in one piece, and it shouldn't be clumpy and falling apart. It's okay if the bowl still has a little bit of flour left in it. It just means your mix was a little bit drier. If your mix is still a little bit wet, you can add a little bit more flour. Just adjust to the needs of your room. After you finish mixing it, you simply roll it out onto a nice lightly floured surface, and you knead it for about 3 to 4 minutes. This will allow the yeast to start activating. The yeast needs the physical motion to start its process of rising. It should not be very hard to knead the dough. It's a very nice elastic yeast. Punch it down and then roll it back. After you've kneaded it for about 3 to 4 minutes, you put it back in the bowl, and you will have lightly buttered the bowl before you put the dough back in. Then you will let the dough rest for about 10 minutes, and this allows the yeast to, again, it just helps the yeast start activating so that when you go to rise the dough later, it actually rises. This is very important to getting nice fluffy cinnamon rolls. After the dough has rested for 10 minutes, you're going to roll it out again onto a lightly floured surface, and using some form of a rolling pin, whatever you have, either it works really well actually, or an actual rolling pin if you have one. I know I don't. You're going to roll it out to about 11 by 9 surface, or into about 11 by 9 square. After you rolled it out, you're going to cover it with softened butter, and then you're going to cover it with cinnamon and sugar. The cinnamon and sugar mix should only have enough cinnamon in it to turn the sugar slightly brown. If you get any more than that, and the cinnamon taste starts, it becomes a little bit harsh, and it just doesn't taste very good. After it's covered in sugar, to your liking, either a lot of sugar or a little bit. You're going to roll it up into a nice spiral. It has to be nice and tight or the dough will simply kind of fall apart. And you're going to cut it into about 6 to 11 pieces, however many will fit in your dough that you're going to make. You can either use a nice 9-inch pie pan or you can use a deep Pyrex multi-balance. After it's been cut into 6 to 11 pieces, you can, or you have to let it rise. You finish rising when it's doubled in size. After it's doubled in size, it should take about 30 to 90 minutes to double in size. If it's instant yeast, it'll take 30 minutes. If it's regular active yeast, it's going to take about 90. After it's doubled in size, you pop it into a nice preheated oven at about 375 for about 25 minutes. After that, after about 10 minutes, you should be covering the cinnamon rolls with aluminum foil to keep them from overbrowning, keeping them nice and gooey and soft and warm. And then pop back in for another 15 minutes. After that point, the dough should be done. You can check it with a toothpick, make sure it's not still gooey. At that point, you pull the cinnamon rolls out and you cover them with glaze. The glaze that you will use for today's cinnamon rolls, I make out of cream cheese and coffee. It's about an 8-ounce container of cream cheese, 3 tablespoons of sugar, a teaspoon of vanilla, and a shot of whiskey. Mix them together until it's nice and smooth, and with a knife you can apply it and see some flavors. After that, you should just enjoy them with a cup of coffee. Hope you guys enjoyed my presentation. Thank you very much.